What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Oregon Ducks post-game live show here on the Oregon Channel, the voice of college football. For anyone who is the first-time viewer, we appreciate you tuning in. For the repeat viewers, of course, we always appreciate you guys tuning back in. So, again, though, especially hit that like button. First-time viewers, hit that subscribe button. At least consider doing so. Helps grow the channel and builds the brand. So. Someone's echoing. All right. Anyways, yeah, so we got our guys here. Teddy, aka Sean, Spaz, and Derek. How you guys doing tonight? What do you think? How did this week go for you guys?
81-7, I'd say it was a victory.
Yeah, man, I think happy. Anytime we put up 81 points at the modern era school record for points on the board, I think it's a good day. Defense showed up. Offense obviously showed up. Special teams look good. I think everybody's happy in Duck World.
I was definitely very happy, to see the starters out there, those transfers, 81 points. I ain't gonna complain.
All right, and I think, just the depth-wise too. The one encouraging thing I thought is we never took the foot off the pedal here. Everybody kept pushing. It's not a typical Mario offense where you see, have a big first half and second half you come out flat. I think it was pretty encouraging to see, everybody come back out and on all phases of the ball come out firing. So that was really encouraging.
Well, and that was it too, because we were all texting during the game, and I think the biggest question mark had been, what will the offense look like? Because we didn't know. And I think the answer to that came very quickly. And I mean, again, it is Portland State. We do understand that and reiterate that. It is Portland State, with all due respect to Portland State. But that offense, I exceeded my expectations by 100 times.
Well, I think the encouraging thing is also, it came in all facets again, between the three quarterbacks who we saw today. I think everybody could agree here that all three of them looked phenomenal, to be real honest here. As we kind of mentioned earlier when we were chatting, we have 5 running backs who I would trust with the ball and could have a 100-yard game at any point here. I'm just out here trying to be a young Dan Lanning. That's my thing. I model it after my guy. No, I'm just playing. But I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Yeah, that's my kid.
Hey, he's got good taste. He knows what's up.
You should put the other one up, Ben.
I got you. I see it. Don't worry. He might. Who knows? But carry on, young Dan Lanning.
Yeah, but as I was saying, all three quarterbacks look good. What did we have? 4 running backs who had a decent amount of playing time between. Bucky only had 2 carries, but the man averaged damn near 30 yards a carry. Obviously, Jordan James and then Dante Dowdle and Jaden Lamar also had a touchdown apiece and over 50 yards. It was really encouraging, honestly. I think one of the question marks that we had talked about earlier in the week that we were a little bit unsure of was the cohesiveness of the offensive line and kind of what that was going to look like. And once again, I think we knocked it out the park. I believe at this point there were no penalties on the offensive line the entire game. I don't think we allowed a sack. And like I said, the team rushing average was through the roof.
I'm sorry, yeah, I said there was one, but I think that was on a wide receiver or tight end, the holding call in the third quarter.
Yeah.
I believe it was a wide receiver or tight end, yeah. So
right, and I mean,
you're correct.
Yeah, just thinking back to what we've seen in previous years, I mean, last year was with the exception, but even with Mario, the offensive line typically had a lot of penalties. That's, it was a characteristic, unfortunately, of the Oregon offensive line, and it was really, really nice to see that wasn't the case this week. I'm pretty encouraged. I think Duck Nation should be encouraged. And going into next week, I really don't have any concerns about this offensive line. That's not one of my factors going into next week that I'm super concerned about. So, from a fan perspective, that's really encouraging.
Well, and looking at the stat line, we had 34 rushes for 348 yards. That's 10.2 yards per rush. Like, one of the questions we had even when we first all met was that offensive line. Especially losing the offensive line coach to the Patriots, how was that going to be? But we come in and we see that a whole new offensive line outside of Powers, everybody else was inexperienced on our line. And we see that not allowing a single sack, yes, even though it is Portland State and FCS team, typically in the past playing FCS team with our other O-lines, we've allowed 2 or 3 sacks in games like that.
Well, especially when you get your backups in. And that was, I think, the most impressive, was the comment here, was even the backups, and then, like Brooks here said, the freshmen, they came in, and it seemed like everyone was extremely comfortable in the system and what they were doing. And I think that spoke volumes, because when you get that second, third string in, you expect a drop off, which there was a little bit. They weren't trying to totally embarrass Portland State, because if they wanted to, they could let Bo Nix in and easily scored 120 points probably, but they didn't. But the freshmen, that's valuable learning for them. So I thought they looked sharp overall.
Yeah, and I think in the comments here, Tony, he brought up a very good point, just going back to that kind of comfortability we were talking about. I know we kind of all agreed that Ty Thompson looked exponentially more comfortable in the pocket, escaping the pocket, throwing with and against his body, moving around. I thought he looked great, honestly, especially kind of compared to some of the flashes we saw last year. I know across Duck Nation, that's a concern, the backup quarterback position and how comfortable we are with Ty taking meaningful snaps. But, albeit Portland State today, I think he looked good in his small showing. So that's also something I'm looking forward to.
Well, and something I brought up over our text group was maybe it was a system thing. Like, you had Dillingham, and then I forget the guy's name before Dillingham. Ty didn't necessarily look the greatest in the 2 years prior to this. Maybe it was Stein coming in that Ty really needed to really kind of develop and improve a little bit.
Spaz, what are your thoughts? I know you were trying to jump in there.
I was just posting here to try to get people on our deal. My thing was that we took 4 guys rushing today for over 50 yards, one over 100, another one that could have went over 100, and yet that was done on 26 carries for almost 300 yards. They were saying it was like 14 yards a carry almost we were averaging during the late in the game, they were saying, and not one direct QB run / anything. Bo didn't run the ball one time. That was key. If we could hold Bo to less than 5 carries a game, chances are we're going to be in good shape.
100%.
That was something we had talked about too.
Yeah, I think that's a definite, especially with Portland State being one, don't show that type of quarterback draw play ability, but also why put Bo at risk? unless he absolutely feels the need to take off and run. But why put him at that risk, especially against Portland State? With all due respect to Portland State, there's bigger games coming up, so don't put him in harm's way.
All right. I mean, especially going into Texas Tech next week, I think we all know what we're in for. I think everybody in here knows that it's going to be a slugfest. So, keeping those legs fresh, probably the smartest thing to do on his end.
Well, like here too, David said, and I think we agreed. We were texting again, and we were like, "Wow, Ty looks really comfortable." And they let him take a deep shot 50-50 with Casper, which turned into pass interference on the defense, which I was like, okay, there you go. I mean, point is, last year he would not have done that. They wouldn't have let him do that, or it would have been like tipped. Somehow at the line of scrimmage, it would have been tipped somehow.
Yeah, it was nice to see him kind of take his shot for once, kind of open it up a little bit and see what he can do. I think that's kind of big for the confidence, especially last year when he was hindered. Any pass he made was a 3-yard bubble screen. So I'm encouraged to see him open it up a little bit. And I think we're going to see more of Ty Thompson this year in a good way.
Well, and I feel like with Ty, too, he actually was able to get it over the offensive line this time and was actually kind of more confident in himself, because last year, even at that Arizona game while I was there and he was playing, I could kind of see that, he was just a direct line to the receiver. It wasn't trying to get it over. It wasn't trying to high point it, low point it, whatever, pass he needed to make. He did look a little bit more confident in making those higher throws.
That's 100% very valid point, because I was the criticism of Ty Thompson on the Tuesday show, the weekly show, where I said, I don't know if he's got it, but maybe he's that little touch just to elevate the ball just a little bit over these bigger O-line and D-line, and to not get it tipped down as much. We haven't seen much, obviously. It was a small setting. I think he got dinged up in the third or early fourth quarter, and then they brought Novosad in. I think his hand got hit or something like that, and so they took him out just to be careful and let Novosad go in. And immediately they were like, play action pass to Novosad, whatever, no issues. And that says the coaching staff has a lot of confidence in the quarterback room. So,
well, I feel like
this
comment the comment from Brooks about our offensive line is stacked. It's like Lanning coming from the SEC, like he is trying to get that size there, because we kind of have been a little undersized at times with our linemen on both sides of the ball. But, Novosad coming in, throwing that pass. Yeah, that's a good comment right there. Ty was underdeveloped. That was true. I mean, Cristobal could have developed him, but never did. Cristobal went elsewhere.
Well, I think all of us have said, the one glaring issue with Cristobal was quarterback development. He was so focused on the O-line, which was good. There's no problems with that, but you didn't let your quarterbacks do what they needed to do. I mean, you see what Justin Herbert could do. Hell, people have seen in the NFL what Anthony Brown could do, and you did not want to unleash him. For some reason, whether you didn't trust your skill position or whatever it was, you focused too much on the O-line at times. And that was kind of his downfall a little bit, in the sense of development of certain players, like Ty Thompson, potentially. So maybe Ty will show us that development this year.
We can only hope, because the last couple of years he was not very good looking for a 5-star quarterback, number 3 rated overall in the country. Does not look like it. He did today.
Well, I feel like that at the same time, like everybody's saying, like, needed to develop. Now, like under Dillingham, under Lanning, under Stein, he's had a little bit of time to develop. Yes, he didn't look that great last season, even when he came in, but he looked better than he did even when we had Cristobal there. Like, that quarterback development was not Cristobal's forte. You can even see it in Miami. But at the same time, like, he's taken a lot of steps forward. Do I still think Ty could be the starter next season? Maybe, but I don't see it right now. This is just a little bit of a game. Like, just with these improvements from last season to this season, I don't know that he can be the starter come this time next year.
Yeah, because Novosad might soak up all this knowledge and overtake. You never know. Because Novosad came out and they trusted him to, again, immediately play action, like on the goal line, like to try. I mean, so that says confidence. But thinking of Stein, and a great comment here. Yeah, give the duck a nap. That duck was like the final touchdown of the game. He was like, I'm done. I'm not even doing this anymore. Like, I'm done with you. Like, I'm tired. I'm sore. And what do you guys think? Because I need to pull this over here so I don't disappear from the mic here. Halftime. Oregon, 427 yards, 227 pass, 200 rush. That's almost as 50-50 as you can get. I mean, I was blown away at myself. I was way better, more than I thought we would do.
Well, commentators made a comment too, more towards the end of the game, of like, they have this many passing yards and this many rushing yards. So why we were running the ball so much is so we could kind of even that in. Was, hey, why don't we get
it was like fourth quarter. They were like, oh, they got to balance that out a little bit.
33 passing attempts, 34 rushing attempts.
So it's about as balanced as you can get, both in yardage and attempts. So.
Yeah.
Well, and that's how it was with Lanning all last season too, was trying to balance that out so there wasn't more rush or more pass. Like, you look at some of the other games, not to get into that too much, but there were other games there that their quarterbacks were passing 50 times in a game and they only rushed 18 times. Like, you put that out there and a team's going to know what you're going to do in the future. Whereas, like, you have a more balanced attack like we do, you never know what we're going to bring in from week to week.
I mean, when you have that open playbook, like, it really opens up the playbook too. Well, when your defense can't play too high and sit back all day because they know your only move is to try and throw it deep, or, kind of vice versa, where they stack the box because the only way you're moving the ball is on the ground. That's not an issue right now. I mean, once again, it's Portland State. We completely understand that. But with that being said, I mean, I think not only were the play calls even on both sides of the ball, it was equally as effective too. I mean, like we mentioned, we had 4 runners over 50 yards and 3 of them had a touchdown. And then we had 2 receivers over 100 yards with 2 touchdowns. Everybody was clicking in all phases of the ball in offense. So I'm ecstatic, man. I'm really excited going into next week.
Well, that's it with Keegan Stein too. Is we were talking about it. I'm like, there are so many motion and variations to this screen game that I really had never noticed before, and they were doing it back to back to back to back, and still getting chunk plays off of them. And I was like, this is so well designed, and the blocking from the skill positions were just fantastic. Again, they weren't doing anything overly complicated. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was just motion, deception. I think Nix took two like downfield shots. That's about it. They didn't open up like a deep passing game like Stein wants to do.
No, and I know we mentioned that.
Just really, a lot of simplistic stuff, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that first whole drive, I think we saw 4 consecutive 3-yard or less passes to kind of open up that frame, and it was effective. The guys on the outside were blocking well. Guys were getting upfield. Highly encouraging.
I mean, what do you think, Teddy? Because, that first drive, it was, again, we're sticking with, want to look at the offense. We're going to talk about the defense, of course, because you guys were bitching and complaining in text messages to me about the defense.
So that first drive, that first drive to me was amazing. Like seeing those screen passes, like yes, it opens up so much more. Taking a couple deep shots. Obviously, we took that shot to Casper in the end zone, which ended up being incomplete, which was still a great athletic play on his end, whether it was incomplete or not. But even so, on that first drive, seeing those screens, going from there, kind of let's not show Texas Tech too much, even show everybody else in the conference too much a little bit. It was amazing to kind of see that and kind of see where Stein goes from here with that.
That's a good point too. There was a bunch of fade route type attempts, like on passes on the sideline and in the end zone a little bit here and there, which shows the versatility of what type of play calling he wants to do. It's not just going to be screens or just directly over the middle or dump offs. It's going to also incorporate some of those pro style, I guess you want to say, which, again, I'm still not going to be surprised if I see Bo Nix under center a lot this year, not just for quarterback sneaks. I will be surprised if they incorporate that type of material into the passing or running game.
Well, I think we'll have a much better idea of kind of what our true identity is here on offense come next week. When you were kind of forced to open up that playbook a little bit, it's really hard to sit here against the Portland State. When we just mentioned how we're running 33 times and passing 34 or vice versa. It's really hard to know what our identity is kind of going to look like from week to week, just because we know we saw a very vanilla offense. We know we kind of saw a shell of a defense that was supposed to be there. They didn't really play a whole lot of defense on the other side of the ball. No disrespect to Portland State, and just a product of the athleticism. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just saw like a helmet to helmet from the USC game. I'm like, ooh, that was violent. Yeesh. I should not have a second screen open. My eyes are wandering everywhere. It's football season. We're all addicted. We want to watch as much football as we can.
Okay, which one of you guys has the kids in the background? Nobody that I know on this panel.
It's mine because I live with my mom. So when the mute's
okay.
Because you might be hearing them a little bit. The walls are pretty thick, but sometimes you might hear it a little bit. So
I was tripping. I thought it was my son in the background with his kids. I was like, bro, turn your mic off, because he's on the YouTube and he's like, I'm not on any. I'm not even home. He said, I'm just in the chat. I'm not on camera. I said, well, God, I guess it ain't you then.
It happens. Like I said, if I disappear, it's literally because probably my cat is at the door scratching, going, "Hey, where are you?" Like, he doesn't like getting trapped out of rooms. So it happens,
Oh, I'm gonna grab something real quick.
I guess that's the one thing too, is we were talking about, especially like first half, and I mentioned that to you guys immediately. Number 28 Bocher as a linebacker showed up, and I was like, I forgot about him. And he was
Bryce Betcher is a 2-star athlete.
I totally forgot about him. I felt so bad because out of the spring game, I was like, that's a stud right there. But then I totally just forgot about him, and he immediately made his presence felt, like in 3 or 4 big plays in the first half.
Well, I mean, just for him to get the start, I think was kind of shocking. I mean, I know in the Tuesday show when we were kind of going through projections and stuff, nobody that I knew had him projected to start. So I don't
remember seeing his name on the depth chart.
Yeah, even more so. So I mean, it's nice to know that they trusted him enough to give him that start, even if it's against a Portland State. And then, as you kind of mentioned, he made his presence felt in multiple aspects of the game, not just on defense early on, but he also recovered a fumble on special teams later in the game. So, I mean, this man was making his presence felt in what I believe is his regular season debut. So I'm kind of excited to see what that means going forward for him and how much playing time he gets going forward. at this point, how do you nix his playing time? So I think we're going to see him a little bit next week as well. I also think we see a different defensive starting lineup with that being said, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even see your boy Reed.
Nico Reed?
Yeah, we didn't even see him today. Nor did we see Jurion Dickey.
I did see him on the field. Yeah, I did see Dickey on the field. Recorded no stats, but he got a little timeout on the field.
Oh, did he? Okay, because somebody was saying earlier that they didn't see him. They were asking where he was.
I didn't notice him specifically. And someone that stood out that I don't think we talked about a lot was the wide receiver Bryant.
Gary Bryant, that man over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns today.
He came out of nowhere. He was like
7 catches.
Over the field. He was all over the field. I was like, Brian.
Well, right, Brian, and I mean, just projection-wise, this man wasn't. I mean, when I say this, take it for what it's worth. He wasn't projected to be one of our top 2 guys out there, and he was getting fed, and he was doing things with the ball. He was highly, highly encouraging. I think wide receiver depth might be a little more of a strength than I realized coming into this year, especially if we can lean on some of these other dudes. So I'm really, really excited for Gary Bryant, what his future looks like this year.
Well, he was a portal transfer from Rice.
Gary Bryant?
I feel like, yeah.
Didn't he come from SC?
I really feel like with this wide receiver depth that we have, I feel like we kind of look at it and kind of see guys that we don't recognize because of the fact that, like, they're transfers, they're freshmen, they're people we had no idea, like schools that aren't really televised much, or schools that, like Rice or Nevada, places like that don't really get much national television time, that come and transfer in, thrive in our system, and then you go and you look at them and are like, oh, well, they came from here. But we get this wide receiver depth all the time. It's just a matter of, again, development. Like, do these guys get developed properly to that point that they can come in and play, be comfortable in our system? And if we need them to step up, they can make a play. And in the words of, Bill Belichick, do your job.
100%. I think that's the one thing that we've been lacking is depth and development at like the second level. And today, also Tez Johnson showed what he could do, or what he's capable of potentially doing. The only one we didn't really see a lot of was Trayshawn Holden, but he did kind of get his ankle, like he walked off with a little limp. I think he maybe cramped up, maybe a little twist or something like that, and they kept him out after that. He didn't get a lot of targets, though. It really came down to Bryant, Tez Johnson, and, of course, Franklin. Those were definitely the 3 top targets for the majority of the game.
Correction, Bryant was a transfer from USC.
Oh, okay. Maybe he felt like he was too deep on the depth chart there and he wanted to go somewhere. And that's fine. That's totally fine.
Today, also, somebody brought up, too, Casper. Casper came in kind of clutch, too. Even so, like, throwing up the 50-50 balls, PIs, things like that. Like, that guy is going to be a dude, obviously, down the road. Like he just said, 6'8" just said, he's going to be one of those guys that we can trust later on down the road to kind of throw that ball to, because he is tall and lengthy, kind of like Troy Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, you can't teach athleticism, and I think that man more than flashed his athleticism today. We didn't really have to put the pressure on him. He wasn't really expected to bear the load today by any stretch, but I do think he's going to come in and make an impact on this year's team. Absolutely.
Well, that's it too. You can't teach height. He's like 6'6". I mean, you just put him on the side and just tell him, "Hey, reach for it." You're probably going to get a PI 30% of the time. I mean, that's an easy one. Is that correct, Tony? Nate Costa is the quarterback coach at Nevada. Oh, Nate Costa, an Oregon legend, one of the guys that stuck around at Oregon all that time? Yeah.
I'm gonna go look this up.
I was like, I'm not sure about that, but I'm gonna take Tony's word on this. But yeah, Google that for me, please, because that's an interesting fact, actually.
A lot of Oregon ties.
Yeah, I didn't know where you went.
Not
No,
surprised.
that is true. Nevada QB coach Nate Costa.
There you go. With knowledge is power. Good job.
Never mind. He resigned 12 days before the Wolfpack season opener as of August 25th. He resigned.
Ah.
Oh, wow. You talk about
wonder why that is.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that is not an ideal time for a program to lose their QB coach.
No, that's not ideal to lose any coach, position coach, or anything of that nature. That's not ideal at all. There was a good one up here. Yeah, I'm waiting to switch to that game. I do want to watch Texas Tech because we play them next week, so I definitely want to watch this game. So
it's on delay right now. Weather storm is hit Wyoming, Laramie, so they are in a delay.
Did the weather though from Tempe roll into Cheyenne? When did that game for ASU end? Because I tell you, I stopped trying to watch it at like 2 a.m. Central Time. I was like, I'm done. When did it end?
Well, I went to bed at almost midnight, and it was Pacific time, and it was still in a delay.
Oh my!
It was
God.
1:30 when I went to bed, and it was just getting ready to end here in the Pacific time zone.
Oh my
so it had to be
God.
just after 1:30.
Wow.
I was like, I gave up on it. I was like, I'm done.
I feel bad for those poor East Coast fans. If any of them tried to stick it out, I mean, they were up well into the morning this morning.
Was anyone really watching ASU versus who was it?
Southern Utah, I believe.
Southern Utah.
Southern Utah, who almost won that game.
Yeah, I was like, Arizona plays Northern Arizona tonight. That's what that was. That's why I was getting this confused. I was like, which team was it?
Don't sleep on Northern Arizona.
That's true. Yeah.
The Lumberjacks.
Arizona boy, okay?
Arizona.
I may not like Arizona or ASU, but I live near NAU, so
they're trying to whip up the dust storm right now. But defensively, like here, he was still, as David said, he was still impressed with the defense. Again, still Portland State, but again, we were talking, and a couple of you were like, "This defense looks like garbage. This defense hasn't done anything." I was like, "Hold on, relax. It's vanilla. It's a base defense. Let them do the thing." They scored a touchdown, and after that, they didn't get anything. Like, they almost got nothing after that. The final box score, again, like stat line, was total of, they had 200 total yards. That's, all those drives moving between like the 20, 25 to like the 40-yard line added up. Basically, outside of like one to maybe two good drives and only resulting in one touchdown. That defense changed immediately.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't think the issue so much was with Portland State going down the field and scoring a touchdown. I think we all made predictions before the game, and we all kind of undershot actually how our defense was going to perform today. I believe we all had said Portland State was going to score double digits.
Yeah.
But, I think the big concern in the first quarter strictly was the number that really sticks out as 100 yards rushing in the first quarter for Portland State. I don't care if you're playing a vanilla defense. I don't care how you're lining up. Basically, what was happening out there is our front five, whatever formation we were sitting in at the time, was getting bullied by FCS caliber offensive linemen, albeit for one drive. I think it was concerning to see that is a possibility that could happen. We saw that there is some susceptibility there, though. Does not mean, it's going to be a season-long injury, and we absolutely did see a defensive adjustment to kind of shore that up and basically nix any form of offense Portland State had. However, if we do not acknowledge that first 102 yards, I believe, was their total rushing in the first quarter, we're doing a disservice to this Oregon program. We got to acknowledge that you give up 102 yards to Portland State in the first quarter. With that being said, everything else after that, I was very pleased with. I was pleased with the defensive back physicality. I was pleased with how the linebackers started to crash. Safety play was really well done. We made some nice open field tackles. Obviously stayed out of the penalties on the defensive side of the ball as well. But yeah, I'd say, if there's a little frustration from a lot of Ducks fans in the first quarter, but to see it get shored up so quickly was highly encouraging, because those defensive adjustments was something we were not really seeing these past, well, let's be real, 6-7 years.
Which is surprising too, if you look at the actual stats too. And outside of, yes, that first quarter, their total rushing is 148 yards. So that means the rest of the game, they give basically, say, 48 yards to 50 yards. And yet last year, passing was our issue, right? This game, 52 yards passing total.
Yeah, I thought
so and then they shut it down. So I felt like the adjustments did come. It just maybe took a second. That's a lot of new guys that are communicating. And, so yes, I have to see what happens, especially next week. But very positive adjustment that was made immediately to stop what they were trying to do.
Nick Aliotti, former Duck defensive coordinator, was on the Pac-12 After Dark or Pac-12 post-game show, and he made the exact comment that I believe Derek just made about what do you take away from this 81-point win, well, the one bad thing is the first quarter that Portland State had 100 yards rushing, and after that they had pretty much nothing. And that was spoken like a true former defensive coordinator.
Well, Nick Aliotti, he was the, as we used to say, the bend don't break defense. He would give up like 300, 400 yards, but he'd be like, just scoring,
Well, one thing I want to through text is like, it's the first game of the season. Your defense is still kind of meshing together at that point. Going from that 4-2, like I was saying, to that 4-3 line definitely helped, because that too high safety was really kind of what was killing us at that point. That's what was getting us pushed around. You look at that too high safety set, because we're like Jason's saying, Portland State's QB was supposed to be legit, especially the passing. He's supposed to be able to throw that ball really good, really well. But at the same time, you're kind of scared of that going in, because you hear those and see that. But at the same time, our guys were getting pushed around for a series. You didn't have Ugalagi. I don't know how to pronounce that name at all out there. You didn't have Nico Reed out there. Some of our key defensive players that more than likely we'll probably see next week against Texas Tech weren't even out there. So some of those smaller guys, the freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores, guys who don't get much playing time, were out there probably getting bullied around at that point. It's like you were saying, Derek, we're going to see a much different starting lineup defensively next week. But making those adjustments, whereas in past we haven't had, those defense coordinators outside of Aliotti who would make those adjustments, helped a lot. And I think we'll see even more adjustments come next week as well.
Yeah, this lineup that we saw today, it will probably change, but I think that also the way they interact with each other and communicate will be a bit of an identifier too of how they line up, because this was a lot of different people coming together first time in a game situation, and they immediately corrected it like as quickly as they could. So hopefully we don't see this need to be done again, but we're going to find out next week, that's for sure. I mean, next week's going to be the test. The first test, anyways. There was one other, as you mentioned too, a big thing this game, and Portland State did a really good job also. They only had 3 penalties, I think, the entire game. Oregon only had 1, and that was the holding on, again, the wide receiver or tight end for 10 yards. That's huge. Last year, penalties were killing Oregon.
Well, and especially, I know you had mentioned in the group chat earlier, and I believe you had brought it up earlier in the stream as well. We were running a lot of motion. There was a lot of motion happening going on behind these plays. A lot of unique formations were being had, and we did not see a single false start. And I think that was the one thing that I was just most highly encouraged by. False starts have been the penalty to absolutely bite us in the ass. I didn't see any of that.
This coaching staff right now, with Will Stein especially, has done a phenomenal job, at least in this game, of stopping that. Now, are we going to expect a few penalties again? Of course. That's going to happen to any team, no matter who it is. But this was an extremely promising start, because you look at the penalty yardage we lost last year, that easily was one win that we lost last year, just in penalty yards, probably. I mean,
yeah, and I mean, it just kind of goes back to that cohesiveness. And, I know there are a decent amount of people who are kind of worried about all the new parts coming in between, the new OC and transfer portals and true freshmen who are actually going to get some decent playing time this year. But it looked like everybody was ready to go. I mean, we didn't even see the true freshmen out there making mistakes, which is something that we would typically be prone to seeing. And, when the third team got out there late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, the third team wasn't out there making penalties and making these little bonehead mistakes that, once again, we've kind of been accustomed to seeing in previous years. So I think the coaching staff did an excellent job this week getting them ready to go. And that was clearly made evident by the final score.
Did we have a second penalty? I must have missed the second penalty, but if we did, still 2 for 20 yards.
Yeah, it was the very beginning of the third quarter.
Oh, okay. I was like, still 2 for 20. Any coach, Kirby Smart, would stand here and be like, 2 for 20. Like, he would be, especially when you have third string guys in there.
Yeah.
Or as we discussed also, the tempo changes on offense that they were running, where they would do kind of and then run, hurry up. I was like, to have no false starts, like in those areas like you were talking about, like, that was impressive. That showed how well this coaching staff trained the guys to line up, know what they needed to do, and just do their job. Basically, that's something. Don't make mental mistakes. And so 2 for 20, if we did have two penalties for 20 yards, I'll take that every game of the season compared to some of the disasters we've had in the past.
Well, and even so, we look at the home or the opener last year, we had, I think, about 100 yards in penalties, I think. Like, to go from that to 20 yards, whether we had 2 or not, that's a big improvement. And I think it all comes down to these guys were just ready to go. Like, whether it was off season, this week, spring ball, whatever, the transfers coming in, everybody was ready to go. Like, I think even with that, you had Bo who, was recovering from the ankle. But after that, you probably had them out there, ready to go, getting ready for next season once everybody had decided, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're going for. Everybody was coming in ready to go, ready to learn, ready to play. Not just like you're seeing some of these teams out here who are just not ready to go. And every single string was just firing on all cylinders.
Can anybody tell me the last time an Oregon defense, regardless of it being Portland State or USC, held a team's quarterback room to 8 for 20 for 52 yards?
I I'd have to look at the stats. To be honest, that might be 2010 against Nevada. I think when we took them out 72-0.
Yeah,
That
the
might
worst
be
team that Oregon's
2010.
ever played. Yep.
Yeah, that might be Nevada in 2010. I can't say to that. I would have to look up stats.
Yeah, you might want to check the stat line on that one. But if there was a game that was ever going to happen, it was absolutely that game.
Yeah.
I'm Googling.
Yeah, I forgot about that game. But yeah, I mean, 8 of 20 for 52 yards. I don't care who you're playing. You'll take that all day long.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes it especially tough when you're playing a scrambling QB too. You know, even when the pocket collapses, that man's out here extending plays. We saw him running around, and he kind of gouged us a few times. But yeah, the way the DB stuck with the routes, you know, they held. It was great. It was highly encouraged. That is definitely something we were not seeing in previous years, was DBs trailing these wide receivers for more than 3-4 seconds. You know, we would see a crapshoot after that, and you know, guy streaking down the field for 35 plus yards. So I'm very happy that wasn't the case this year, or this game.
Well, and again with these DBs too, that like we see that these were again second, third stringer guys. We may have seen probably 2 or 3 of the starters out there, but sometimes like you didn't really see a lot of those starters out there that we're probably going to see next week against Colorado, against everybody else going forward, Washington, USC, you know, those starters. These were second, third string guys who were able to keep up with them. Granted, beat Portland State, obviously, but they were still there. And to be able to see that outside of Gonzo, who is now on my beloved Patriots, but outside of that was amazing to see, because we don't see cornerback play like that from Oregon defenders that often.
Well, that was something we saw in the spring game, so I was happy to see it today too. Is outside of the first quarter, was those DBs, they were on the receivers. They were taking them down. The tackling was fast. Someone might get the ball, run for a few yards, and there was a guy tackling. So that was impressive. I was trying to find the stat line, but it's Google has wiped. Nevada asked for Google to wipe that from the stat sheets forever. Because that was, I mean, literally that game. I think, if I'm not mistaken, 2010 Oregon versus Nevada. I believe Nevada had literally 50 total yards in that game, with sacks included and stuff like that. Literally, it was like 50 yards total. It was just ridiculous. And this game, the defense, I can't attest to this. Maybe someone can correct me. I only really remember about 2 blitzes the defense did. They didn't even blitz.
Today,
that was the
yeah.
big thing. They weren't trying to purposely pressure or do anything fancy. It was literally just like kind of a base defense. Maybe they'd bring a linebacker here for like a little blitz, mid blitz or something, but they weren't doing anything crazy.
You know, Spaz, I went back and I found the game you were referring to. So it was in 2010, and it was a 72-0 win against New Mexico. We held them to 11 for 24 for 70 yards and 2 interceptions that game. Their leading rusher had 26 yards total. So yeah, that was
Nevada. The Nevada game in 2000. New Mexico was 2010. The Nevada game in 2011, they had 516 total yards, 3 touchdowns, 26 first downs, and they held the ball for a whole 10 and a half minutes longer than we did in 2011.
That's what I couldn't remember. I was like, was it? That's why I was like, was it Nevada? And I was like, oh, New Mexico. That's what it was. New Mexico.
We still won that game 69-20.
Yeah, what was the 2017? That was 77-7 or 3 or something. They were referring to that earlier. It was 2017 or 2019. We beat somebody 77. Because that was the modern record before today's 81.
Oh, that was Willie Taggart, and it was against.
Was it like Florida A&M or something, or
Southern
No.
Utah.
Southern Utah.
Southern
September
Utah?
2nd.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Taggart's 1 year. I mean, even in this
77-21 that year.
Yeah, even in this game, I mean, possession-wise, it was pretty split. Like, they held the ball for over almost 29 minutes. We held it for a little over 31. Pretty 50-50, but it's the execution and the speed. And I told you guys, I'd seen a video a few days ago from the Portland State coach going, hey, we're fast. We're not Oregon fast. So even he knew it was like, yeesh, you know. He knew immediately.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to have a steady dose of reality with your optimism there. I don't think whoever Portland State's coaches was coming in expecting a great performance by any stretch.
That's why they left this morning. They didn't leave last night.
Well, they're also. I love the broadcasters talking about that during that, going, hey, you know, they're FCS, so they have to save money. So they just drove down the day of. I like that little, you know, deep talk in the sense of how programs work. So
The funny thing about, I will tell you a funny story about Portland State's coach, Bruce Barnum. Up here, they call it Barney Ball. And this is now, I believe, his 7th year there, 6th or 7th year at Portland State.
Ninth.
He's like,
it said ninth.
9th? Okay, so yeah, I was a couple less. But he's like the second longest tenured quarterback or coach outside of, I believe, June Jones at Portland State. But he, a couple years ago, they had a game at the old Civic Stadium called Providence Park now in Portland. And that's where they first made the big deal of Barney Ball. And he made a deal where if the students showed up or whatever in support or whatever, he would pick up the tab for the entire game for any PSU student that showed up. And he picked, his tab was like $7,000. And the university was not real thrilled, but it got a bunch of students to go to the game. And he picked up their tab for the night.
He seems like a pretty real dude, like on the interview I watched.
He
was straightforward.
He's a great guy. He's funny. Yeah.
He didn't, you know, bull crap anything. He was like, ooh, we're going to fight, but yeah, this is going to be a detriment. And again, they're going to see the stats like we're looking at right now. I mean, if you look at it, we had no turnovers. That was huge, including Ty Thompson and Novosad. No fumbles, no nothing. They had 9 first downs. Well, where did most of those first downs come from? The first quarter. After that, it was almost nothing. We had 38 first downs. 38. That's a ridiculous number of first downs. I mean, you ask how many first downs you need to get in a game, and most people go, like, now you get 20, 25, you're pretty good. 38? 38. Yeah. Stupid. That's a stupid number.
Bleacher Report just sent me the official number for how many push-ups the Duck did. You guys want to take a guess on that?
546.
Did he even do the last touchdown? Because he looked like he was like done for the day. He was like, no, I'm not even doing that.
546 is what they said on Pac-12.
Yeah, that was the same tweet I saw after the game was 546.
He ain't lifting his arms till Texas Tech, okay?
Oh, yeah, they might want to find a new mascot for next week. That boy's gonna be hurt.
He was like they were They were also making fun that his push-up was like 1, 2, 3, 4.
I can't even
There was
hate on the
no
dude.
push-up to it.
I'd hit about 20 of them, and I'd be gassed. I'm good. I'd be out there doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's what
I'd be
that's why they
flopping
have
in the
like
end zone too.
yeah. That he was literally like the last touchdown. He was like, no, like I'm not doing it anymore. Screw that. Oh, I can't find that.
Baylor is losing at home to Texas State, 21-6.
Wow. Okay.
And the Cougars are in Fort Collins, and it's 14-3 Cougs. Mid-second quarter.
There was something. I'm glad I looked back at the chat. I kind of forgot about this text, this message. It came in at the very, very beginning. I have to ask the same question. There was a question, but then there was this comment. What was with the turnover stick with the shoe they were signing? They only showed it once, and I was like, what the hell is that?
They never did go back to it. They made a reference after the first touchdown about it. They talked about it, went to commercial, and never brought it back up.
Well, and they even mentioned
this. Do not know.
It was like
they even came back and said that they wanted to check it out and like go back and visit and figure out what the story was behind it, and then they left us hanging for 3 quarters.
Yeah, it was like a staff.
Yeah.
With a Nike shoe on it, and the guy went over and like signed it or something, but they never really showed it. I'm like, what is that? That's new.
Well,
it's like the turnover chain in Miami.
Well, what even was it? Like, it was literally like like a camera stick with like an Air Force One on it. Like,
I don't know.
That's all it looks like. Like how? Like that's not creative. Like you're just throwing something there to just put up in the air, like Miami does with the turnover chain.
I don't even think it was a camera stick. It looked like some sort of medieval like club or something with the shoe on it. I was like, what is this thing on our sideline? Like, come on, guys, we can do better than that.
I thought it was an upside down fake leg with a shoe on it.
It might have been. Who knows?
That's what I thought too. I was like, wait, is that a fake leg? Like, is that a prosthetic?
Somebody's prosthetic with a shoe on the end. That'd be fucked up.
I hope we never see that. I hope we never see that again this season, because whatever that was, they need to adjust it or something, because whatever that was not pleasing to the eyes.
Even so, it wasn't the botcher guy that even held it up. It was somebody else, like, who didn't even get the turnover.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I have no comment on that.
But you're right, they never did come back and tell us.
All I can say is we have Texas Tech coming up this next week, which I think a lot of us here want to watch the Texas Tech game. I don't know if it's still a delay. I've got to switch over following this and see what's going on there. I just want to see what they look like. We've now seen what Oregon looks like at least a base level. Because again, they didn't do anything fancy. Defensively or offensively, really. They did not do anything that fancy. So, and it was beyond expectations impressive. So props to Will Stein and to Dan Lanning and Josh Lupoy on adjustments, alignments, making sure that all the team was prepared, including the third stringers even. They got in there. And we didn't have any issues.
You're right. So, and I think, while we're giving out flowers here, I think it's we should give Alik Terry that man's flowers for the week. That man had the offensive line ready to go. Absolutely. Well, I know we mentioned it a couple times throughout the show, but I'm going to go back to it one more time. I was absolutely blown away with the offensive line performance after, the kind of the question marks surrounding around what that was going to look like. But shout out to Alik Terry for that man having those boys ready to go.
Well, and the good thing that helps Alik Terry is that we have the guys, the running backs that are experienced and are shifty. So if the O-line creates space, just a tiny space, you know Bucky's going to go through, and the O-line just goes,
Even the
push
freshman.
him forward, you know.
I love
Well,
that.
and
Push, pull, drag him into the end zone with you.
So an update on the Texas Tech. 8:48 Eastern is the time they expect it to get going.
That's
Why
an
do you
hour and a
tell-
half
About
from
a
now.
half hour.
Yeah, why do you and Tony have to tell us the same bad news at the same time?
But yeah, like I'm impressed with the offensive line too. Like that was amazing to see, especially with a bunch of new guys in there. And who knows? Just like you were saying, Derek, that could be a whole new starting lineup come Texas Tech too. We don't even know. Like that could not have been our official starting lineup going forward.
And someone correct me if I'm wrong too. They didn't even do anything. I don't think even like offensively, they didn't do any pulls or like major stunts on the O line. It was pretty much just straightforward running. The only ones might have been was maybe when they did like a couple toss passes, but they really didn't show like the guards running across.
No, there was not a lot of moving guard action.
That was just straightforward power running for the most part.
I didn't really see any. And even being an offensive lineman throughout high school, throughout college, even at that, even on forward tosses, the guard isn't really pulling a lot unless it's that not a fullback toss, but like the wide receiver toss where the quarterback's throwing it right in front of him, right there. But you're not pulling too much even on a wide receiver toss. So this was mostly a lot of just straightforward, hard nose, just get them out the way, blocking.
Well, that's it. Outside of this, too, you look at a lot of the other teams that have been playing this week, a lot of them have been throwing in like trick plays already to try to get their opponent off guard. Oregon was like, we don't have to show anything.
I was going to say, don't forget the trick play we did see right off the bat coming on the PAT attempt.
Well,
yeah.
Outside the 2-pointer, but I'm talking about offensively to move down the field. And even that,
we hadn't seen that done in a few years.
We haven't, and I was actually really thrilled. I missed it. I walked down
So
the
did
room.
I
was like, oh, just PAT came back in. I'm like, what? How 2 points? What the hell? But
bring back the swing gate.
Outside that, there was no backward. There was no backward lateral passes or running back pass. There was none of that, like to a degree, nonsense that you see a lot of other teams already pulling out of their bag of tricks to.
Justin's teams ran that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, am I wrong to say this offense that we just saw today, again, with all due respect to Portland State, even made Chip Kelly's look kind of slow in the way that they executed? I mean, that's we're touching a dangerous area here with trying to compare the offenses, but I mean, they just put up 81 points, and they could have put up more if they really wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of comparing it to a Chip Kelly offense, I think Chip ran with a little more tempo than we saw today. Pure speed speaking, this is a very fast team. This team is fast on the defensive side of the ball, special teams wise, on the offense. Those guys are quick. And what they are, they're effective. Chip Kelly was doing this stuff, running a lot of these trick plays, having your first team offense pulling the load here. This man was doing it with the third team offense today. It was incredible.
Well, I feel like going back to looking at Colorado, they're a fast team too, but they're really fast. But you go and you look at us today, that was just even faster. Like you look at Bucky, you look at Bo. Bo looks even faster, in his progressions and his reads, in his step backs even, his back pedals to go through his progressions. Like that looked even faster than he was last year. Troy looked faster. Holden, he looked fast. Like that whole offense just looked like just go. And I feel like we could compare it to the Chip Kelly offenses but at that time we still had Mariota. We had
Darren Thomas was a big one thing.
Yeah, Darren Thomas. We had those faster quarterbacks in there. Granted, Bo's pretty quick, but at the same time, Mariota, Darren Thomas could get away from defenders, whereas Bo may or may not be able to. But this offense is just gonna. I feel like we could run that kind of tempo that Chip had too, of one play after another, and we kind of seen that too. Was here's one play, get back to that line, go. And I
think in the comments
we
here,
had
Tony,
different rules.
Yeah, exactly where I was heading with this one, Spez. Like there were different rules. I feel like it was an entire different philosophy surrounding the tempo at that point. Chip, it seemed like they were more so using that tempo, burning out the defense, no fresh legs, as he mentioned. We weren't subbing on offense, so they sure as hell ain't subbing on defense. I think this year I'd call it a little more of a controlled tempo, because when we saw him, we'd see him click, and then all of a sudden we'd kind of see him pump the gas a little bit, get set, move everybody around, and then we're back at it and we're off again. So I think it was a slightly different in terms of the philosophy surrounding the tempo, but in terms of similarity, I definitely see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's why I was like, we're touching dangerous territory here. You little shit, you little. Go away.
Well, we are kind of in a little bit of a dangerous territory too, because talking about the penalties, like if we were to go that tempo, who's to say that we aren't going to get 4 to 5 false starts a game if we were to go that tempo a game? Because at that point, even in that era, like Chip had them ready to go, and in that era, rules were a little bit different. Like you couldn't, like you snapped the ball, things were going, but
And we saw later on too, we learned Mark Helfrich was not exactly the most in control of a team person. And I love Aliotti. And no matter what, he was a bend don't break. He would do this, exotic blitzes and his stand up personnel, and you don't know who's coming, but that defense is the best we had in the last 15 years. Was what, number 35? 35th ranked defense. So this year, we would like to see, obviously, one from last year. Last year that step up quite a lot. I mean, last year, what did we say we were overall last year? 70th.
Yeah, I don't have my notes from earlier in this week, but I believe it was somewhere in that like 79 to 7 category.
Yeah. So if you take that defense and you knock it up to like 45th. One, that's a huge improvement. Two, that's easily another win or two.
Well, and then when you think about your offense is firing at the clip they are right now, the more your defense performs, the less pressure that's put on your offense. That's already putting up, well, let's just say, we have a great year and we're putting up averaging 38 a game. So say you're averaging that. Your defense, it takes a lot of pressure off that offense, a lot of pressure off Boa's back, a lot of pressure off, the defense themselves, obviously, if they can perform like they need to.
Well, and with the defense performing, going back to limiting those runs to 4 or 5 a game, if the defense performs in the way they did today, going against a Washington, a USC, a Colorado, that's going to take those runs away. It's going to open our offense up a little bit more as well. Different plays, trick plays, more deep shots down the field, because Bo is going to be able to set his feet and actually get that ball to Franklin, get that ball to Holden, get that ball to Dickey, it's going to open things up so much more for that offense, as long as that defense is going from 70th to 46th or 70th to 5th or whatever it may be.
By all means. We have Washington, and it took them a little while. They were struggling with Boise State, but we're going to save some of that conference talk about our opponents coming up. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday, so I don't want to go too in depth with that, but I agree 100%. Is the way this defense played, let the offense wear out that defense instead of our defense being gassed, just being on the field all the time and giving up third downs over and over and over again. I mean, I believe it was. I don't have the same thing. I don't have the number. I think they were literally like 110th in third downs allowed, or something like that. Something really just ridiculous number. Where of course they're going to get burnt out. They're on the field all the time because they can't stop anyone.
129 in third down defense last year.
It was worse than 1/10 that I even said. I knew it was bad.
I'll just say one thing about today's game. We gave up 200 yards total offense. Washington gave up 402. Colorado gave up 547.
And obviously, again, we do reiterate, it is Portland State. It's not Boise State. Boise State is a pain in the Pac-12 sides. We know this. And TCU is – we're going to talk about this on Tuesday again. We were talking in text. And I was like, I don't know who's good, who's not good, or who's just bad. But in that game, it was so confusing. The TCU Colorado game. It was so confusing.
How does the team that finishes national runner-up get beat by a team that hasn't won a road game against a ranked opponent in 20 years? They were 0-27.
I was going to say, I don't know why TCU is ranked as low as 17, but now I'm going, okay, I guess the voters are not stupid. Maybe they're not as stupid as I thought they were.
Should they have even been ranked 17th after that? They look not even ranked. Like, okay, I don't want to get to that comment, but I don't think he's the real deal yet. That's one game.
Yeah. I was about to say, we were talking about Tony.
That's one game.
Now, if they blow out Nebraska next week, then everyone's going to have to start taking notice of like,
and keep in mind, Nebraska lost to a decent Minnesota team by a field goal on the last play of the game 2 nights ago on the road.
Yeah.
In Matt Rule's first game.
Matt Rule's defense is a whole different thing than TCU's, with all due respect to TCU.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, they, like I said, they lost to it by a field goal, and nobody even really gave them a chance to win nothing this year.
Well, no one gave
and
Colorado a shot.
On the road.
They were negative like minus 10.
Pat McAfee,
plus 10 or 14.
21 going into the game. It was a 21-point spread pre-game kickoff. 21 points. And Pat McAfee went on game day and said, Coach Prime Colorado upset coming today. And everybody else on the game day panel was laughing at him.
Pat McAfee don't.
Who's laughing now?
Yeah, you don't give a shit when anyone says. I just remember my YouTube feed coming up with all these videos going, why Colorado will get destroyed by TCU this weekend, which I thought TCU would win, but I thought it'd be about 10 points, probably, but.
I mean, I didn't think Colorado was going to get blown out, but I still thought TCU.
Sure, Tony.
And without that Travis Hunter, amazing Jalen Ramsey type interception, TCU wins. Because that, like they were saying, 100 times out of 100, a quarterback is going to make that pass. That's a touchdown 100 times out of 100.
That was a phenomenal interception. Even the announcers were like, that's a easy completion. And he just was like, nah, mine. And took it away from the guy. I was like, yeesh. And he was playing offense. That was the most impressive part. He was playing offense and defense. I mean, it was like, give this man a break,
Well, and this man played 60-plus snaps playing 2 of the most physically taxing positions in the sport. That was absolutely incredible and did it effectively with that.
But, yeah, he can't do that. He cannot do that every week, or their season will go downhill immediately because they're also relying on him to do this that much.
110
You can't do that.
110 snaps is not sustainable playing those high impact. That is not sustainable.
But again,
that'd be like asking Bo Nix to be the quarterback all offense and then go play linebacker, on defense every snap. Even if he's not tackling someone, just to chase someone down. He can't do it.
But again, he played at Jackson State at the FBS level, where that's a little bit different than FBS team, where you're getting a little bit more physical at that point.
Well, Tony puts a good point here. I once said there was Colorado was a 3-win team, which we don't want to get too in depth with it. We'll talk about that on Tuesday more. But I'm the same. I give them 4 wins. Now, it was 6-6 might not be totally unreasonable.
They could very easily come into Autzen Stadium in 3 weeks 3-0. If they have anything remotely close to the performance they had today, next week at home against Nebraska, and then in 2 weeks when they go to Colorado State, who's getting beat by Washington State right now, yeah, they could easily be 3-0.
I would love it. Like I said, if they come in ranked, if they could come in ranked, even number 20 or something, I'd be like, let's do it.
It wouldn't surprise me if they come in top 25 this next week because of that. I mean, you're talking the media and the national guys that have just been blowing all over Colorado all day since this happened. Everybody who's anybody in the media field has been blowing prime all day, and there's not a shadow of a doubt that I don't think they come in at least 25 this week.
I don't think that they will actually be in the top 25 because that's number 17. Okay. Yes, it's 17, but top 10 maybe. They'll probably be just right outside of it. I feel like they have more to prove.
I don't know, man. I'm just thinking in theory. This was their first game together being cohesive, and then going out into TCU, the team coming off a national championship appearance. And we already know, like Stas kind of alluded to multiple times here, how the media really like Colorado and prime. They're like this hype beast and following it, which is cool. It is good for college football. It's good for Colorado. I think we see how real they are when they come to Autzen in a couple of weeks, for sure. I hope they do go out next week and win. I hope they do blow out Colorado State at this point. I'd love to see it. I'd love a nice top 18 matchup. Colorado riding that nice media high and then getting blown out the water with just.
Yeah. I mean, did anybody see Shedeur Sanders throwing for 500 yards against anybody?
Maybe against Arizona or Arizona State, Stanford, but not TCU. But it's like Tony's saying, Nebraska is polar opposite to TCU. TCU is not physical today at all. Like they came out and looked. Yes, they were a different team than the national championship team, but they came out different.
Did they just have a hurricane blow through them there? Because they both just went poof.
No, somebody was echoing. I don't know who it is. I'm getting echoes on mine.
Are you still there, Teddy?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. The other two are gone.
But
there's Derek.
I mean, do have Colorado probably going 6-6, but I'll get into that probably on Tuesday, to be honest.
I just knew I'm like, we got to at least bring it up. We had to at least talk about it.
Yeah, we knew how much
last
we were going to try to avoid it. Someone was bringing it up this week.
Yeah, well, because last week we were all like, oh, they're going to be lucky to win 1 or 3 games. They're going to get smoked at TCU. I think everybody in the country was shocked.
I expected them to come out firing a little bit. I did not expect them to play such a disciplined game all 4 quarters. I mean, defensively, they definitely had some holes. I know Sean mentioned that early in the game. They kind of looked like a Swiss cheese defense, which, to his credit, absolutely looked the case at times. But to also be fair, they definitely made some plays on the defensive end of the ball. They took some turnovers away. And then offensively, obviously, those guys were just extremely effective.
Sorry about that. Had to walk away. My cat was having a hissy fit in the background, trying to get out of the room.
Well, I mean, at the same time, the thing that really kind of pissed me off Prime was at halftime. It's, Travis Hunter lays out and makes these 2 touchdowns. The Heisman's already chilling in his crib. I'm sorry, the dude is an athlete, but he ain't winning the Heisman.
Hey,
that's Deion. That's him.
Yeah, you need to see more from him. But this game, he showed out when he needed to, and the rest of the team helped him a lot. Well, guys, do you have any other final comments on this game? Because it's, we have a lot. There was a lot to process from this game, obviously. There's a lot of good takeaways, a couple, minor things, of course, that need to be cleaned up. I'm sure the coaching staff is going to look at this. But next week, and especially on Tuesday, we're going to have coming up on the Oregon Live show on Tuesday nights, Texas Tech is a whole different beast than Portland State, of course. So is there any other main takeaways that you guys saw from today's game that good, bad, clean up this and that, kind of thing, before we get into the Texas Tech week?
Field goals. Even though we only attempted 1, Camden looked a lot better than he did last year. More confident, more leg power. That 41, it looks like it was probably good from 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Camden looked good, I believe. Yeah, I mean, he absolutely crushed his field goal. It's nice to have a nice kicker for once, you know what I'm saying? Going back to the Alejandro Maldonado days. We don't need to bring up any PTSD issues with anybody around here.
Poor Maldonado. That man,
I don't want to hear
it. Grief over his time.
I can't talk about Alejandro. I hope he's having a great life at this point, but I'm not over it. Anyway, going back to my...
he tried his best, okay? At least give him that.
It wasn't good enough.
Alejandro sucked.
Well, I mean, you look at Lewis. I'm sorry, his first year, I was like, okay, he had some good kicks and some really bad kicks. But since then, like last year and so far this year that we've seen a couple, like the 1 kick, I'm like, isn't it nice to not panic when you hear anything over 30-yard field goal? Isn't it nice to not be afraid of a kicker? For right. Since Rob Beard, probably. And even then, he didn't have to kick very many long field goals.
Yeah, that's definitely not something we've seen a lot of being Oregon fans. There's some long field goals in general.
Texas Tech in 8 minutes, by the
way. Nice.
But Ben, kind of going back to the biggest takeaway, I think the biggest takeaway for me is just the effectiveness all the way down through the depth chart. That's the one that I'm choosing to kind of hold on to this week, kind of knowing that when injuries happen. They happen every year. They happen to every program. It's going to hit ours at some point. It is nice to know, regardless of where this injury comes in, we probably have a dude lined up right behind him that's equally, if not more so, ready to go. So I'm really encouraged by the depth so far, just from what we've seen today, and it's small flash.
What do you think, Teddy?
Yeah, I agree with the depth. Definitely the field goal kicking, not having to worry. Defense, maybe starting a little slow is going to be a little worrisome because it could be that way come next week too. But other than that, I don't really feel like there's much, being that it was PSU, to kind of worry about right now.
What do you think? Did you have any good takeaways? Anything that bothered you today?
I think everything went way, way better than I think any of the four of us thought, even though it was Portland State, could have gone today. Other than that first drive of the game, after that, all the adjustments were made and it was full pedal to the metal. And I was thinking halfway through the second quarter, I'm like, are we going to really score 50 and a half? And then all of a sudden I'm thinking, are we really going to hit 80? No way. And it just, in years past, this would have never happened. Chip Kelly would have pulled the brakes. Charlie Waterfish would have pulled the brakes. Mario would have pulled the brakes at halftime. Yeah, I mean, I was a little nervous at first, man, when they brought out Bo again for that first drive to the second half. I was like, I know we were all talking in chat. I was like, oh, what's this saying for Ty? And then the next series he comes out and everything's okay. I'm very happy with how today went.
I have to agree. And right before the game, for anyone watching, I shot out the idea, like, let's have a little friendly competition in point scoring and predictions here. Not win-loss, but actual point prediction. And I really, really, really wanted to give Sean, Teddy, and Spaz a half point each, because my dumb ass decided to retract my 72, 73 point prediction originally from Tuesday night, and I went down. But I
was about to say something about it too, and I was like, I don't even know who was closest. I don't even remember my own prediction.
I wanted to give it, so I'm going to work on banners for this. I had 63-17 because I thought our second, third string would give up a touchdown. So I was thinking like 14. Sean, you had 63-10. Derek had 56-13. And Spaz had 72-13. And my original had been 73. And I backtracked on that. I was like, yeah, let's take out some points. That's pretty high. I wanted to give Sean or Teddy half a point, but I'm just going to give Spaz the point for the week. He is the winner this week. Spaz, congratulations. You are the point spread winner this week for the bet, because
hey, he did get 7. I said 63, but I almost put 7 in there. My other prediction was 70-7 in the group.
I believe I had 73 myself also, so, but I backtracked. But I'm not going to do half points. We're just going to try to average this out as best as possible. So Spaz, you get because the offense, you get the point this week. You are the winner. I don't know at the end of the season if you're going to get anything. Probably not, but bragging rights, I guess, going out of the season.
I at least want a cheeseburger.
Okay, I think between three of us, the three losers, we can donate $5 to get you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Whoever wins, I'll get you a whole cheeseburger myself. I got you.
There we go. Okay, so we'll donate a whole fucking meal. I mean, whatever. If you want fries and a drink or a milkshake, whatever, you can have it.
Ooh, milkshake.
Don't forget the toys.
Hey, so somebody can buy the other one. Somebody can buy the fries. We'll be good.
Whatever. All right. Well, Spaz, you win this week on the point spread and the predictions because you were just generally closest. So got to give you that for the offense because we were not sure what this offense would look like, and it exceeded everyone's expectations easily. And 7 points on defense. If we can keep that up for a few weeks, sheesh.
Right now, as it looks from what I've seen so far, from pretty much every other game, right now, if these hold up, Oregon will have the number 1 ranked defense in the nation after today.
That would be ridiculous. What? Oregon's never had a ranked defense. Even for a week, even for 1 week, I would take that.
Call it.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Defense is the greatest. I'm calling it right now. We're done.
All right, everyone. Well, we have been on here quite a long time, but there was a lot to talk about. We had a lot of new players to talk about, defense, the newcomers we talked about on Tuesdays, and I can't be more impressed with how the game went overall. I think it exceeded every one of our expectations. But I do want to give a second here to let everyone in the chat shout themselves out for your media, social media, etc. Promote yourselves. So Teddy, go for it.
Sorry, dog's barking. If y'all want to follow me on Instagram, it's Sean Howard788, and my TikTok is, pull that up real quick, Chubby Nerd 5. Don't have Twitter or anything like that, so y'all want to follow me there, give me a follow.
John, go for it. Also, you guys can post it in the chat too. And Derek, I need to pull you up, so please do post something in the chat. So I can, sorry, not Derek, Sean, Teddy up here, so I can mod you up.
You piece of shit.
Derek, what you?
Everybody can follow me at Wait Who's Derek on Twitter. I'll have it posted up in the comments come Tuesday. But I'm mainly active on Twitter for everybody out there.
Spaz, what do you have? Anything you were working on? I'm trying to just write a new banner, so I need someone to take like 10, 15 seconds of time from me. I like that he's muted the whole time and not noticing, and no one's saying anything. You guys are not helping him at all. Spaz, you were muted.
I'm going to be real honest. The way you guys were both looking at the screen, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, yo, is my audio not working? Like, I can see all three of you guys, like, looking at the screen. I'm like, oh, no, my shit's down.
Y'all suck.
Sorry, Spaz.
I was typing a banner. Don't look at me. It's their fault, not me. All right, go ahead, Spaz. What do you have?
At the Rocky Classic on Twitter, Sean Bryan on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I was trying to get my TikTok viewers up to 1,000. Then you can do live streams on TikTok. Be kind of cool if we all were able to get 1,000 or whatever. We could all stream live, do this on TikTok as well.
Oh, that's an interesting area we could look at. And like same as like Teddy next week, potentially, barring some hopefully situation, it can be corrected. Teddy and I will be at the Texas Tech game, doing some live stuff here on the channel, some shorts, as well as maybe a little halftime commentary, talking to the Duck fans for you guys. So that will be pretty interesting. But as for us, for the rest of the time coming up, make sure you tune in here on the Oregon channel here at the Voice of College Football. Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Central Time, 7 Pacific, for the Oregon Ducks live weekly show. Because this week, not just talking about this game, but of course looking forward to Texas Tech. Because that's the big one this week, obviously. That's the big non-con on the road. And we're all waiting to jump to the Texas Tech game to see what they look like. Because Texas Tech at Wyoming, I said it was kind of a sneaky, maybe tricky game. Because they're looking at Oregon. Especially after they see the point spread that they just, pummeled Portland State by. The coaching staff might be going, yeesh,
Absolutely.
So it'll be an interesting one.
Hey, Ben, I think you might be muted.
Damn it. I did it to myself this time. All right. Once again, let's try this again. Round 2. Once again, thank you to all the viewers, to Teddy, to Derek, to Spaz, to all the viewers here. Make sure you subscribe if you're a Duck fan. Share this out on social media. It grows the channel. It helps spread the Duck world out there. All of us people over here doing this stuff. Hit the like button. Again, it shares the video out through the algorithms. Spaz is holding his football up correctly this time. That's a plus. And we will see you hopefully on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Central, for the Oregon Live Duck Show, and then every Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, depending on when the game is, right here live on the Oregon channel at the Voice of College Football. Gentlemen, thank you very much, as another broadcast would say.